When I go to sleep, my brain says to me in my head, Phoenix, you're going to be kidnapped, wake up, be careful. So I wake up, and then when I wake up, I can't get back to sleep, and then I get really frightened and stuff of being kidnapped, and then I call one of my mum and dad in. Sometimes they'll sit there for ages with me in the room, and sometimes I won't be able to get to sleep.
PTSD is a post-traumatic stress disorder, and this can come about after a really very traumatic, frightening event that a child or young person has either experienced and been part of or witnessed.
It was about 8 o'clock and Simon came in and said that he felt that, that something had happened in the garages. And Phoenix literally jumped into my arms like a kitten and was trembling from head to foot. And it completely shattered her sense of safety. Suddenly, her home, which had been a sort of a fortress and inviolable, suddenly that had been, that security had been breached. And I think she probably realised that we were, as parents, we weren't invincible. There are things in the world that happen that we have no control over.
Since the first burglary happened, I felt I'm really, really scared, and I just can't get to sleep since then, really. I feel like someone's always out in the garden and trying to get into the house and stuff.
Phoenix, being so young, wasn't able to discriminate and to recognise that actually, as violations go, it wasn't necessarily that serious, and it really rocked her world, actually. And in response to those break-ins, she started to develop a whole series of anxieties about people breaking in and kidnapping her.
We're actually looking for significant evidence that the child has been exposed to something that any of us would find really disturbing and really distressing before we would think about actually looking at a diagnosis of PTSD.
I started experiencing PTSD when I was about 10 years old, after I was a victim of sexual abuse. I'd have flashbacks when I was just walking down the street and I'd see a man walking down the street and his face would change into the person that abused me. The nightmares I'd have quite regularly, and because I was having these nightmares, I then wasn't sleeping, which meant I was not only mentally exhausted of everything that was going on and the different emotions that I had, but I was physically drained and exhausted because I wasn't sleeping at all. To feel as if you're the only person in the world who understands is terrifying, especially for a 10-year-old. At the time, I didn't link all these emotions to the PTSD. I just thought I was crazy. I just thought it was just me and I was just having all these different emotions. But then looking back and realising what PTSD actually is, I've now managed to put all those different emotions into one box. And it makes a lot more sense to me now than it did when I was 10 years old.
When this trauma has happened, it often affects other aspects of their day-to-day life, so they often find it very hard to concentrate. And it can affect in the way that anxiety and depression can affect, in terms of affecting your mood, affecting your appetite, affecting your sleep, affecting you wanting to be involved in things, activities as much as you previously wanted to be, and generally being quite nervous maybe to go out, being fearful to go to situations that may trigger something, remind you, or just generally being fearful to go out and be in larger groups if that was part of it, being very wary of what's going on around you. So particularly anxious, which is understandable, but when it lasts for a prolonged period of time and affects your day-to-day functioning.
I want to stop it because I'm not letting my mum and dad have time to themselves. So to go in the living room, have their dinner. Like a couple of nights ago, my dad had to sit in here eating his dinner. I'm really tired because obviously I don't get that much sleep, and that has an impact on my schoolwork and stuff. So I'm probably not doing as good as I could.
eventually you'll get to the point where the trauma, you don't think about it every day, then you might go a week without thinking about it, and then maybe a month. And at the first that seems impossible, and everyone tells you that and you don't believe it, and you go, you don't understand, but actually they are right. Give people a chance to help you, because I know that I found it very difficult to let people help me because I didn't want to admit that there was something wrong with me, but actually it does get better.